Example 2 says, recalling the unit circle and using the given relationships between trigonometric ratios, fill out the given table. Note that in the unit circle, the radius is equal to 1. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the radians column. So we're given the degrees of these angles, and we know that 0 degrees is also equal to 0 radians. And the way that we can figure out 30 degrees is by multiplying by, we know the relationship is that pi radians is the same thing as 180 degrees. And so this is going to be 30 pi over 180. And the nice things about tens is you can cancel out the zeros when dividing. So it's 3 over 18. But we know that both of those are divisible by 3, and so that's going to simplify into pi over 6. So we know that this is pi over 6 radians, and I can do that same process for the other ones as well. So 45 degrees, if I multiply that by pi over 180 degrees, that would be 45. And what ends up happening is the degrees ends up canceling out. And so the units that we're left with are radians. So it's going to be 45 pi over 180, which if you do the division ends up being pi over 4. And you can do the same process to get this next one, pi over 3, and then same thing with 90 degrees, and that ends up being pi over 2. All right, so let's go ahead and calculate the sine values of each of these angles. So if we're thinking about the unit circle, and I'm just doing the first quadrant because 0 degrees is right here, and if I'm thinking about the terminal point for 0 degrees, it's 1, 0. And remember in a previous video, we said that sine of an angle, let's call it theta, on the unit circle is equal to the y value, and cosine of that angle on the unit circle is equal to the x value. And the mnemonic device that I gave you is, you're trying to marry your boothang, and either they ask you, why won't you sign the prenup agreement? And your response is, because you're still in love with your ex. And so that's how I memorize that. So for 0 degrees, sine of 0 degrees is going to be 0, since the y value is 0. And cosine of 0 degrees is going to be 1. So I was able to fill both of those in. Then again, thinking about the unit circle, and 30 degrees being somewhere like right here, with this being 30 degrees. The terminal point there was root 3 over 2, 1/2. And so that's the x value, that's the y value. So sine of 30 degrees is going to equal 1/2, and cosine of 30 degrees is going to be root 3 over 2. All right, for 45 degrees, I'm going to draw it down here since I have slightly more space and a little bit. I don't want it to be so small so you can see a little bit better. So here, this angle is 45 degrees, and remember that I had you fill out the blank unit circle. So these are definitely things that you want to have memorized. And so the terminal point for 45 degrees on the unit circle is the square root of 2 over 2, comma, the square root of 2 over 2. That's the x-coordinate, that's the y-coordinate. So it turns out that sine and cosine of 45 degrees are actually the same value. So both of these are going to be root 2 over 2. It seems like some of you have come to realize this based off homework questions that I've been getting. And if I draw 60 degrees, that would look something like this. and so this is going to be 60 degrees. And this angle, if we're thinking about a right triangle, that angle is going to be 30 degrees. And so what ends up happening is this terminal point is 1/2 comma root 3 over 2, which is the coordinates are flipped from the 30-degree angle, which should kind of make sense, because if I draw my 30-degree triangle here, if this is 30 degrees, then this angle is 60 degrees, and so the terminal point is going to be the same point, just with flipped coordinates. So this is going to be root 3 over 2, and this is going to be 1/2. So these are going to be the same down here, just flipped. So sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2, and cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. So hopefully you recognize that relationship moving forward. All right, I'm going to go ahead and erase all of these and draw my 90-degree angle in standard position. So here's my y-axis, here's my x-axis, and on the unit circle, ooh, that was poorly drawn. Okay. That isn't that much better, but here's 90 degrees. The terminal point is 0, 1. And so here's the x-coordinate and here's the y-coordinate, which tells us that sine of 90 degrees is 1 and cosine of 90 degrees is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the definitions from the circle or the xy plane perspective for tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent on the top. So tangent, recall, was y over x. Cosecant was r over y. Secant was r over x. And cotangent was x over y. However, remember that on the unit circle, the radius is equal to 1. And so in these two areas, I'm just going to replace the radius with 1. And that's going to make things a little bit easier for us. So let's go through tangent. Now, tangent is equal to y over x. And another way that we can define tangent of theta, and we did talk about this earlier, tangent of theta is also equal to sine of theta divided by cosine of theta. So I can just take the previous two values in the column and divide them. So tangent of 0 degrees is going to be 0 over 1, which ends up equaling 0. Let's do, for tangent of 30 degrees, we would do 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2. And I'm going to have to do some algebra by multiplying by the reciprocal. So it's going to be 1/2 times 2 over the square root of 3, and the 2's will divide out, and that leaves me 1 over the square root of 3, but I need to rationalize that to get rid of the square root of 3 in the denominator. And so this is going to end up equaling the square root of 3 divided by 3. And for tangent of 45 degrees, that's going to be the square root of 2 over 2 divided by the square root of 2 over 2. And those are the same numbers, so if you divide them, the result is just going to be 1. And for tangent of 60 degrees, that's going to be root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. And I'm going to have to multiply by the reciprocal, and the 2's will divide out and leave me with the square root of 3. And then tangent of 90 degrees is equal to 1 over 0, which hopefully you have seen in a math class by now that you cannot divide by 0, and so this is actually undefined. All right, so now let's do cosecant of 0 degrees, which is 1 over y, but another relationship is that cosecant of theta is equal to 1 over sine of theta. And so I can take the reciprocal of the sine value. So 0 over 1, if we take the reciprocal of that, is 1 over 0. So it turns out that this is undefined. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1, which is just 2. Let's take the reciprocal of the square root of 2 over 2. So if we take the reciprocal of that, that gives me 2 over the square root of 2, and I need to rationalize that. And so that gives me 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. These 2's divide out, and I'm left with the square root of 2. For cosecant of 60 degrees, I'm taking the reciprocal of root 3 over 2. And so that gives me 2 over the square root of 3. I need to rationalize that. So that's going to give me 2 root 3 over 3. And I need to take the reciprocal of 1, which just ends up being 1. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of them kind of quickly. Why don't you pause the video here and see if you can get the rest of them on your own, and then go ahead and unpause the video to see if you got them correct. So this is the rest of the table. Hopefully you got these correct. If not, or you are unsure how I got any of these, please feel free to drop by office hours or go ahead and send me a message on Slack.